you show up in a room as, Nikki Morris, title, right? I show up as Kamaria Scott, title. And the more your title elevates, people stop seeing you as a human.
Yeah.
And they start seeing you as kind of like this entity.
Right.
And part of what I worked really hard to do in my corporate life was to stay approachable, to show up as, Kamaria Scott human before Kamaria Scott title, because
Welcome back to Bloom, Build, Birth, the podcast where we explore what it means to navigate life, leadership, wellness, and everything when it comes to womanhood and being a woman and having greater intention as we do it. This show exists because there are so many women who I know personally and who I know through my platforms who are high functioning, very capable, responsible, but they are also very disconnected from themselves in ways that it's difficult to articulate, but we feel it, we sense it in ourselves and in each other. But in the conversations we have here on this podcast, the point is to really explore the emotional, relational, biological even, and of course, cultural, as we're talking about today, realities that we face as women transitioning through life after 35, after 40, and I'll soon be after 50. So today's conversation is going to be the perfect embodiment of that. My guest today is Ms. Kamaria Scott. She is the founder and chief performance strategist of Enetic, a boutique consulting firm focused on employee engagement, well-being, and performance. Kamaria has spent more than 2 decades, because she looked like she was 19, right? But she has spent more than 2 decades helping organizations create human-centered cultures and experiences across healthcare, financial services, and technology industries. She has been doing this work for long enough to have seen some things and known some things. So let's talk to her and kind of get into it. Kamaria, what pulled me into this conversation a lot was your focus on not simply the work, but the people. And I always love talking about the why behind the what. You talk about the middle. Can you share with us, what does the middle mean in your work and in life, especially for women after 35?
Absolutely. So in my work, the middle, well, first, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to join you today and to talk more about people and the experiences of women. I'm grateful for doing this podcast. The middle for me in my work is about 2 things. One, it's about the middle layer. So quite often, any strategy that an organization has to go through their people leader, their people manager layer, and they are the middle. They are the translators of what has to happen for that business to be successful. And I've spent many years teaching, coaching, training, supporting managers in their work because they are honestly what makes a company grow.
Yeah.
The middle for me personally is this interesting middle part of my life where I have done being new, climbing the ladder, managing departments, shifting to entrepreneurship, being in this middle phase of my life where I'm redefining who I am, what my identity is, how I am coming and presenting to the world. And I think as we get to this phase in our lives, our sort of late 40s or almost 50s, we do start to think about who we are a little bit more. We try to reprioritize. So it's this phase for me of even redefining what the next half of my life is going to be. And those 2 things actually, they align for me because there's this space between what you want to have happen, the vision, like in our corporate life, we'll say the strategy, but in our real life, it's just the vision we have for ourselves. And the point where it becomes real, where we realize it, and that anything between those 2 points is the middle. But that's the most important part because it defines whether or not we succeed.
I love that. And I also think it's important to keep in mind that during this very transitional state of being in the middle, the literal and figurative middle of it all, it can feel very disorienting because even if things weren't working, you had a compass, right? Maybe you didn't know your true north at that time, but when you figure out that this is no longer working, what I was doing in my 30s and early 40s is not working, it can feel disorienting. What have you perceived or experienced yourself or observed with other women who are high performing, overachieving, eldest daughters, all the things, who are, by any metric, really successful, but also very disconnected from where they are in this stage of their lives.
The interesting thing about this phase of your life is that you have to go back to what was the promise. So I think for so many of us, even especially women of color at this phase of our life that fit the description you gave, we started off this journey really thinking that if we go into the workspace, we work really hard, we give all the effort, we do all the things, that it's going to get us to a certain outcome.
Hmm.
And I think the middle is the accumulation of experiences that have either reinforced or chipped away at the belief that the thing that you were sort of promised is going to come true.
Yeah.
And so I personally know a lot of women who are redefining their lives and have left the workforce the way that we traditionally have been in it because it kind of came to the point where we're like, I don't think this is going to get me to where I'm going.
Yeah.
I I don't want to continue to sacrifice myself to a system that may or may not give me what was promised. But the other part of that is even if it did, what's the cost? You
There
know,
it is.
I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I sometimes mention but don't talk about is that I had my first real depressive breakdown when I was 29.
Mm.
I was working for a startup. I was the kind of person who would be answering her BlackBerry in the shower at 5:30 because
Yeah.
if the executives were emailing, I was responding. I was on the soccer field at 6 o'clock with my laptop. You're doing great, sweetie. Clickety clack, clickety clack, clickety clack. I was doing all the things, right? And then one day I got to this place where my body was like, girl, we're not doing this anymore. And I would come
Mm.
sit at my desk and I would just like functionally freeze and I wasn't functional. And I went to go see I was working for an urgent care clinic. So, I ran across it to one of our clinics and the doctor, tapped my knee, was like, open your mouth. And he was like, I think you're just suffering from depression. I think you're burnt out, really.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the first part of the journey of sort of understanding. And
Mm.
and then there's, all these moments where you realize that you're really sacrificing. And so you can say to yourself, like, am I successful? Check the box, right? But am I
Yeah.
happy? Am I healthy? Am I living the best full life? And you have several experiences like this along the way. So I think when you get to the age that we're at,
Hmm.
you say to yourself, I'm not willing to work an 18-hour day for whatever
Yeah.
the promised land is, right? I'm going to redefine what the promise is because
Yeah.
it's not what I originally thought it was. And I'm also going to renegotiate with myself what I'm willing to do and sacrifice in order to get it. So I
Yeah.
think that's really kind of where we are and how we get to this place of being like, we have to look at our lives a little bit differently at this phase.
Yes, because it's like how are you really successful if you are quietly disappearing? You
Hmm.
know, if you are, and that's on the positive, like on the best case scenario. On the worst case scenario, you're dying to yourself, right? You are slowly chipping away at your very life force and giving it to people who could not care less. I remember that story a few years ago about that lady who they discovered her body in her cubicle. Remember that? Maybe 2, 3 years ago. And that was such a wake up call. It's like nobody even noticed until they couldn't avoid it, right? Like nobody noticed. And you and I both know that if something happens to you physically at work, they're going to replace you
Hmm.
within days, weeks, potentially,
Yes.
And what does it all mean if you have, lost your identity, you've lost your sense of self, and you are no longer whole? I guess is the question. What does it all mean? So, what do you feel like women, the woman who's listening to this conversation right now, the woman who is not sure what she's feeling, but this is maybe resonating a little bit. What would you suggest that she consider or begin to think about in terms of her evolution or unlearning at this stage? What's worked for you?
I think the first thing is getting really clear on what you want for yourself and your life. I'm a big, huge proponent of what I call intentional life design. And once I sort of came to this realization that like work does not love you back. So cut that out, right? Because I loved work.
Put that on a
But
sticker right now and put it on your site so I can order it, girl. That is
yeah,
exactly
work
right.
does not love you back, so cut it out. But what I did was I grounded myself in like, who do I want to be, right? What life do I want to live? When I had my first layoff, my son was 5. And I was in this role where, again, I loved my job. I was there before the CEO was there in the morning, right? Like I got the good parking space. And when the cleaning crew came at night, I was there with my shoes kicked off, still working.
Yeah.
But then when I got laid off, what I realized was that I could not go back and get that last year back. The year of, I missed soccer games. I missed, you know, homework assignments. And I said to myself, I'm not going to trade my work life for my role as a mom. But I started getting really clear about then, like, what are the things that are important to me? Who is Kamaria? What is her identity? So like, yes, she's an employee, but she's also a mother who wants to go on field trips. I want to be field trip mom.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
clear about that. I will not be
Yeah.
missing field trips anymore. So if we're going to the zoo, honey, I'm going to the zoo.
I loved being field trip mom. Absolutely.
Right? I
Yeah.
love being field trip mom. So I was going to be field trip mom. I was going to be soccer mom. I also had really great girlfriends and I was like, I miss my friends. I'm going to prioritize Friday nights to go be with my other mommy friends and not, parent, but just be together. And so
Mhm.
I started really mapping out the areas of my life that were non-negotiable
Yeah.
anymore. And that helped me then to start to prioritize and renegotiate my relationships in different ways. So no more are we going to work until 2 a.m.
Right.
Right? No more are we, because then I can't get up in the morning and go to the gym. I want to be healthy. So I think for me, it's really, the first step is just to always go back and say, what are the areas of my life? Like, who do I want to be? What are the identities I want to have? And write them in a fun way. Because again, I wanted to be soccer and field trip mom. I
Yeah.
want it to be fun Friday night with my friends, figure out who you want to be, the life you want to
Yeah.
live. And that is your North Star. That's the starting from the beginning of the vision you have for yourself. That's the
Yeah.
first step.
I love that. Girl, all these gems you're dropping, talking about leadership in terms of like organizational work and, we share that experience in terms of, I think, having a systems level thinking, but also actually liking people, caring about people.
Yeah.
Those things are not all, those are often mutually exclusive, right? You have people who are
Yes.
very good at systems. They are very good at like cutting the fat, figuring out the organizational hierarchy and all that, but they don't give a good, they don't care about people.
Hmm.
And so for you, what does human-centered leadership look like? And if a leader right now or a company, is going up, what should they be kind of building into their system to ensure that their leadership team is human-centered and that their culture is not just some, decals on the wall or a sticker on the back of your laptop? What should they be
Yeah.
doing?
So I think for me, like human-centered leadership is very simply remembering that companies and entity, like a company is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is made up of human beings who have real life goals, dreams,
Yeah.
aspirations, families, and taking that into consideration in your decision making.
Yeah.
I talk about being laid off 3 times because I have been laid off 3 times,
Mhm.
but each time was a different experience, right? The first time it was very much, you're going to get a month of severance and, surprise you don't work here anymore. And I mean, it was just a traumatic experience. And I was very discontent with how it happened. The second time, it was like, well, you are going to get laid off, but it's going to be like in 2 weeks, and we're going to give you separation pay so you can continue getting your unemployment, and not going to have to pay for Cobra. And I was like, okay, all right. Right. The third time they were like, it's January. We're probably going to lay you off in like April.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
and you're still going to get X, Y, and Z, and you're going to get yours. And I was like, I can't even be mad. Thank everybody involved. I'm going to take my part and give so I'm going to go. Right. So
Right.
it's like
Right.
you can take a single act of, we have to separate people from the organization, but the way that you do it, acknowledging what is 1 month of severance to people, right? That's insane. The fear, the just trepidation over, I had income and I did not know it was going to stop. And now you're like, girl, 2 paychecks, but I wish you the best. That's
Right.
crazy. Right?
Right.
But a human-centered leader is gonna say, "Listen, we understand we're gonna have to go in a different direction strategically. We
Mhm.
understand we're gonna have to move people from the company, but
Mhm.
what is the way that we can do it that protects their dignity, that
Mhm.
understands that, people have real financial obligations, that takes into consideration that we can do this in a very humane way, and we can be deliberate about doing that. Just because we're legally obligated to be like, well, here's, this is the what the law requires of us.
The
Can we
bare
do
minimum.
yeah,
Yeah.
can we do better than that for the people who have worked and sacrificed for us?
Yeah. So when you going back to that kind of idea of the middle, again, I love that concept. Can't wait for the book. I will be absolutely I have so many books on my nightstand right now. It's kind of a problem, but I will add it. I'll be adding your book to my
And
nightstand.
yay.
Thinking about the middle, what do you hope that the kind of awareness, I feel like awareness is part of what we get to benefit from at this stage of life is the thinking about thinking and the application of the theory, right? Going beyond the doing and being more focused on the being of humanity and of life and of womanhood. Well, I love the being portion of this stage of life, I guess is my point.
Mm.
What do you feel like the middle and being at this stage gives you or gives women permission to do that they may not have felt they had 10, 15 years ago?
Oh my gosh. I think it gives you permission to choose and to make an informed decision. That's what I really love about this phase of my life is that, I can go back and I can look at all the life choices, the good ones, the bad ones, the yikes ones, but all of that was information and
Yeah.
data and understanding to better know why I do something or won't do something, to
Mhm.
better identify the situations that will or will not benefit me, and to consciously move toward or away from something. So one of the things that I personally have and I try to sort of get to is, a mastery mindset, right? And so when I think about mastery of anything, it is you start off woefully terrible at something. Right. And most of us start off woefully terrible at life, at just the navigation of life, because we don't have any of the context, right? And
Right.
then you sort of go through this process of successes and failures, but it starts to sort of almost build this internal knowledge base for you of understanding. And
Mhm.
then you apply with purpose and intentionality. And so this phase of life is like, I remember my 20s and all the questionable life choices that were made in my 20s. Like we remember, and I think in your 20s, that like the 20s is your exploratory phase of just doing stuff, right? You're for the most part unencumbered. You may not be married, you may not have kids. You're just kind of like, you're in school or you're living life, but
Yeah.
you kind of are the center of the universe, but you don't really understand consequence because you've really not had any major life experience. In your
Mhm.
30s, it starts getting real
Mhm.
because you start understanding the repercussions of your choices,
Right.
right? You start to understand even finance a little bit better. You start to understand why you should or should not buy that fancy car with that large car payment. I remember, when I was in my late 20s, Timothy's mom had a car that I really loved, and I
Mhm.
wanted to be like Timothy's mom. And so I bought the same car that Timothy's mom had. And then my son had to go to private school because he had some learning differences. And that
Mhm.
car that I loved became the car that I loathed.
Mhm.
And what I learned from that was like, listen, you may love the new car smell. Are you going to love that car payment?
Right.
Right? That taught me what I really love is paid off vehicles. That's what I really love, right?
Right.
But like you have to have these life experiences in your younger years
Yeah.
so that when you get to this phase of your life, you have moved through sort of the mastery scale from I'm a novice at life and things and I'm terrible to
Mhm.
actually I'm okay. I understand. I understand the choices that I make and I can make them with deliberate understanding of the outcomes. Now, do we always get it right this phase? No, but we're better at it because we can look back and say, this experience taught me something. I
Yes.
either loved the outcome of it, do it again, or I hated the outcome of it. And even, I'll take us to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I admire people who have, like, we got married at 18 and we're still married. Like, I love that for them.
Yeah.
If I had gotten married at 18, I would absolutely be divorced
Right.
because like, I didn't know myself then to
Yeah.
choose the right partner.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't worked through enough of my own stuff to choose
Yeah.
a healthy partner. I'm in a different space in my life now where I'm very clear on the type of person I can be with. I know my own shortcomings. So I come with a little bit of a warning label. Listen, I'm not going to hold you. Okay. These are
Okay.
the things that are me. Just make sure
Right.
you're good. But like,
Right.
I know that more for myself. And I know what I can look at another person and go, like, we would not be compatible. This is
Let's
so
just
fun.
let's
Let's
not.
just not, right? So I think this part of our life, the middle, is where we have enough information to make quality decisions and then to look at the second half of our life more realistically,
Yeah.
right? When we were in our younger years, it's like I can be whatever I want to be. I know there's things I'm not going to be at this phase. There's things I
Right.
don't want to be at this phase. So I think we can now calibrate the second half of our life better
Mm-hmm.
and move toward whatever that North Star is, like however we design the rest of our life, we can move toward it with the knowledge of who we are, what we need, what we like, what we don't like, and we have a better chance, I think, of getting there.
Yep. I love that. And the whole sort of idea and the concept of bloom and build and birth is exactly that, right? I believe that we as women go through these three phases over and over and over again. So I, yes, think that, like, my daughter is 12, she'll be 13, absolutely in her bloom, right? She's blooming, she's learning, collecting data. And that is her only job. I tell her that is your job, to collect data, to analyze what people do around you and see how that's working. When you do get into your 20s and certainly your 30s, that's when you're building. You're taking that data that you collected, applying it. You're getting your endurance because some challenges are coming.
Mhm,
They have not already
mhm.
come. They're
Yeah.
here, right? And this is your opportunity to build that strength and those wings. And then I feel like as you move into that birthing phase, which again, simply because we are able to birth ideas and launch ideas as women and as business owners and as parents, we still, like right now, we still have our bloom moments. We still have our build phases. I want women to understand there is not a hierarchy in these phases. Like, they are all interconnected, they are all equally weighted, and they're all very much necessary because you can't do one without the other. Just like with the hive, you can't have a queen bee without that flower, and the intermediary is the worker bee, right? That flower, that queen bee, and that worker bee, all important.
All important. And I think what I would maybe even add to what you're saying is that you're not in, it's possible to be in different phases of that in different aspects of your life.
That's right.
So even as I start to think about, like, the things that we can do in our sleep. So, like, in general, yes, we're sort of in we were in one phase, but when I think about the transition that both of you and I are on now as sort of like founders and starting a different journey and pivoting in our careers, I feel like I'm back at the beginning.
Uh, yeah, you are blooming,
I
right? You're
am
collecting data.
blooming. I am collecting the data. I'm having the experiences that give me understanding at this point because there's so much that I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
That's right.
But
You're also
I'm
building.
right. You're building. But you have to be willing, I think, to be fluid in that and not feel fixed in one phase
Yeah.
because there are going to be phases. I think this pivot, one of the things I've continued to say was, like, I was bored at the end of my corporate career. I,
Hmm.
I could do my job in my sleep. I could phone it in and you wouldn't even know it, right? And then we took this shift and all of a sudden I feel invigorated again because I'm learning things again. I'm learning because I didn't know how to do again. I didn't that wasn't a part of my job, but now I'm think about the joy of being like, I knew nothing about marketing and now I know something. I knew
Right.
nothing about tech. I tell people I'm a newly realized tech girly.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I knew nothing about it. And so, like, there's joy in each stage. So it's not a rush through to get to the next stage. Like, I've never been someone who's like, I always want to get to the end. And I'm like, that life is a journey. Everything you do is a journey. And if you can learn to enjoy every single phase and see value in every single phase,
Yeah.
you're going to be fantastic. So the build phase, I love it. I love building who I am, building a new identity. The bloom, when you finally get your bearing, you're like, I got it.
Right.
Like, that's a fantastic feeling. So I
Yeah.
think it's so important for us to just know that we're going to be in different phases in different areas of our life, but all of
Yeah.
them have value, and it's not a race to get to the end. It's
That's right.
the understanding and the evolution and enjoying each
Mhm.
phase that you're in.
Yeah. And how they're interconnected, of course, but also a build on each other. You know,
Hmm.
they are consistently, hopefully, replenishing each other, right? Like, to your point about being bored at corporate, yeah, because there's only so much data collection you can do in that role. Because,
Yeah.
they don't want you to do a whole lot more outside of what you're doing unless it's affecting their bottom line in a positive way. And so there's not a lot of room for the you and your ideation and some companies do have a better system when it comes to sort of having an entrepreneurial mindset within them. But for the
Hmm.
most part, it's, trust me, take it from me. I was often boxed in, like, girl, calm down.
Oh, yes. No,
Like,
same.
that's a lot of ideas you just ran down. Like, what's going on with that dictation that, I asked you
Yeah,
to do?
right. And so much more than that. And I think what I love too is that, like, it's cyclical, because like when you
Yeah,
get to the birth stage, like I think like my corporate life birthed this phase of my life,
exactly.
because what I am doing is the accumulation of 20 years of building internally, that now I can birth something new, and I
Mhm.
can figure out, how do we start this new journey? I'm not really starting from scratch, right? There's some different areas,
Yeah.
but it's giving me the ability to take everything and recreate. And I think, like, I would almost even say like a rebirth, right? Like a rebirth of who we are and a reemergence of what we're doing, and taking all of our experiences and turning it into something else.
Hmm.
But then you start over, right? You go back to, like, and I'm a blooming, budding, tech girly,
Hmm.
but I'm further along now, right? But I'm building something different. So I think it's so important to just think about each stage begets the next stage,
Yeah.
and it's cyclical in nature. You're never going to permanently be in this. I mean, in our obviously, as we go chronologic through our lives, but there's so many phases that we go
There-
through.
And I want to see it as an opportunity. A client of mine who was, coming out of a 30-year marriage, really because of infidelity, which turned into losing her husband, which now all of a sudden she's a widow. And so has to go back into the workforce, both from the infidelity, from being widowed. And that person has gone now from being a queen in every regard back to being a worker beast. And really, because of that loss, because of the betrayal, I told her, I'm like, you really need to be in the bloom phase, like fully in the bed at this point. It's like, you need to be lying down somewhere actually and
Yeah.
recalibrating and reimagining what life looks like on every level, financially, relationally. All your relationships shift when you lose a partner like that, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's important that we don't see those transitions and those phases as hierarchical in nature.
Yes.
There's no hierarchy. The flower is not worse than the queen, and the worker bee. People hear worker bee, they think, this is a negative. The worker bee is so powerful. She
Oh,
really does
absolutely.
run that high, for real, for real. Like, I tell people, if the queen is not doing what she's supposed to be doing, if the queen is not handling her business and managing her hive, she will get taken out and replaced.
Hmm.
And so it is very important that we have respect for the ecosystem and recognize the power that each phase has. They're so important.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, going back to sort of like the importance of the worker bee, that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why I focus so much on sort of the middle and people leaders and managers, because that's where the real work gets done.
That's right.
You may have senior leaders, the C-suite, who's like, we're going to go that way.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
But who makes the that way possible?
That's right.
Who's really taking care of the people to make sure that they are all going that way together?
Yeah.
And I also, but I want people to know that starting over, you're still not starting over. I have a friend who worked, she and I, again, type A, was going to go set the world on fire. And then she had twins. We all know what daycare costs. So she was like, yeah, I'm going to have to go sit down. Right. So since she went to the house,
Yeah.
one of her twins, has autism. So her stint at home was a little bit longer than she had anticipated. And then she, after over a decade, was found she had to go back to work, right? She wanted to go back to work.
Hmm.
But do you know what it takes to juggle twins that go to two different schools that have different needs
Yeah.
while supporting your husband's business in the background? My friend has amazing project management skills. She could project manage you under the table.
Right.
And so when she went back to work, it took a couple false starts, but she got there. She's back at work as a project manager. And she would have never saw herself as a project manager before. But those transferable skills
Yes. Yeah.
of being able to navigate life brought her back to almost second nature. She's just now doing it, for
In a
an
corporate setting.
company in the corporate life. So like I always want people to know that there is value. Everything that you're doing, you are developing competency. You are developing a skill set. You just have to know where to point it. And so starting over, unless you were the kind of queen that sat at home and you were like, listen, I have a chef, a housekeeper, a driver, like unless you were, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I would say you have excellent delegation skills. Go figure
Exactly.
out.
Hey, you still are running things, girl. I'm not
You're
mad.
still running things. You know what I mean? So I think that, we have to remember that like every experience you have, it's going to teach you something. You're going to
Yeah.
learn how to do something. What I would say is though, you should be chasing experiences more than anything. So I'm a kind of person, if someone says, hey, do you want to do X, Y, and Z? I'm 9 times out of 10 going to say yes.
Yeah.
Now, halfway through, I might be like, this sucks. Why did I even agree to this? But I'm going to see it through because I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn how to do something I didn't know how to do before. And as long as we are looking at our experiences like that, we are never truly not in a position to be successful.
My advice to women and to anybody really, but I love women the most. My advice to women is 4 times a year. So once per quarter on average, I want you to do something that causes you to have pit stains. I'm talking about stress sweat under your armpits. Like you might have to throw that blouse away when you're done. Like I want you to be so stressed about what you're signed up for, what you're doing, that you're so scared. And stress sweat smells different, y'all. You know when it's stress sweat and when it's not, because that tells your body too, you're doing something brand new.
Mm-hmm.
You're completely out of your comfort zone. And that is one way to rewire your brain so that you can. That's how you teach yourself, you teach your nervous system that I can do hard things. You can only do that by doing the hard things.
That's it. That there's no way around it. The only way to the other side is through. And
Mhm.
if you can put yourself in positions to have new experiences and hard experiences, you know that you can do anything. And I think right now we're in this interesting technological revolution where so many of us, again, I was not a tech girly. I see ones and zeros, my eyes cross over. I can't do it.
Right.
Um, but then, right, I started to little bit by little bit, okay, let me investigate. Let me try it out.
Yes.
And don't take yourself so seriously. My goal this year was to be okay failing in public because the type A in me is like, first of all, sweating, yuck, and letting people know I sweat, still no. But that holds you back from being
Right.
because you want to be in your comfort zone. You want to be just successful. You want to do the things you're comfortable doing.
Yeah.
But, go fail at something new.
Yep.
Go fail at something new. Challenge yourself to fail 4 times this year.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
at least that means you tried, you know what doesn't work, you're comfortable putting yourself out there. I think the real differentiator in life is people who are willing to be like, I'll try it.
Yeah.
It may not come out well, but I'm going to try it
I'll
anyway.
tell you one of my 4 stress sweat moments that I'm looking forward to, not looking forward to, but looking forward to is you mentioned it earlier. I had applied to do a TED Talk. That is on my bucket list, right? Like to do a
Mhm.
TED Talk. And I know already right now, sitting here on May 16th at 11:58 a.m. Eastern, I am going to be stress sweating and pit staining. Like I'm gonna have to wear something dark that
Yeah.
day because I will be stress sweating. But you gotta try. You gotta know that you can, that you are enough, that you are prepared for this moment. You wouldn't be in it otherwise, right?
You wouldn't be. And one thing I remember my therapist said to me many years ago, like, there's this book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I remember reading it like, oh my gosh, like years and years and years ago.
Mm.
But it's like you should be doing things that you are afraid of. And it's okay to be afraid. It's
Yeah.
okay to be like, I think I might throw up. And now go get on that stage.
Get on that red carpet, on that
Go
red
ahead and on
carpet.
that red carpet because, and this is kind of where my nerdiness comes out. There's something called an efficacy spiral. And
Mm.
so people think that like you get confidence and then the confidence gives you the ability to go do things. But that's not how really it works in real life. You go do something and then you get the confidence from doing that thing to go do it again. So the first time you're gonna be like, ugh, oh my God, it's terrible. But how many times have you done that thing and at the end of doing that first thing, you're like, oh, oh my God, that was amazing. I love that so much. I'm gonna go do it again. Like
Right.
that is an efficacy spiral. And so you're gonna have to fake it the first time with the confidence. And then
Yeah.
once you have that first time, you're gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I wanna go do it again." And you're gonna learn, "But this time I'm not gonna do this, this, and this. I'll do this, this, and that." And then you
Mhm.
have the confidence to go do it again. So, whenever I'm feeling ridiculous, I make myself go do something.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in we talk a lot about self-esteem, which is good. We want to have self-esteem and that, but self-efficacy, that self-efficacy is a game changer because, knowing that you can or believing that you can that's like 80% of the way.
It is. And if you are someone who, like I always tell people, learning is my superpower, always have been. Other people played sports. I just figured out how to know things. Like learning is my superpower. And so there's nothing I can't learn how to do if I really put my mind to it. And so I don't get terribly afraid because when I'm stuck, I say to myself, what don't you know how to do? What information don't you have? Go figure that out.
Yep.
And so, I mean, think about at one point in time, podcasting, the podcast I have now, Manager to Manager, is my third podcast. The
Mhm.
first one I started inside of a company, and I remember just being like, I want to have a podcast, but it just seems so far away, right?
Right.
Now, think about how many of us are just like, hit record, do a thing, go,
Hit
go, go.
record. Yes.
And it seems simple to us now, but think about for episode one, and what that felt like, and will anybody listen, and that kind of a thing. And I was checking my downloads. I have over 5,000 downloads of the Manager podcast, and I was like, wow! But I remember being like, no one's
Yeah.
going to listen to this. Like, what even is
Right.
this? So, but my point is like, go do the thing.
Yes.
Go do the thing. Know that you have the confidence comes from the fact that you can learn to do the thing.
Yep.
If you have capabilities, and not even you can learn, you have the community and connections to help you do the thing.
Yes. I can't tell you how blown away I've been. Number one, looking at like creating this space, looking at my network and being like, I know amazing women. Holy crap. Like I have people one phone, like looking at my phone, like I know some incredible people looking in my social media. Do you know I have asked people who don't really know me in real life to come on this show and they're like, yeah, I love your content. I'm like, you know my content?
Yes, yes,
Like I followed you for like 10 years or 5 years and you know my content. And they're like, yeah, I'll come on. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I asked, just because I
because you asked.
and
Because
I
you
didn't know
asked.
that they would say yes or no. But guess what? I also knew that even if they said no, I was not going to crumble. Even if they never responded, I'm still going to get up and do this podcast on Saturday with Kamaria. And it's like no matter what. And I'm so grateful for y'all who are like, I think of this as, shooting in the gym, right?
Yes,
Like the who came on when I had 2.5 readers or listeners or watchers, like the folks who come on when it's not mature, that to me makes it even more special.
it does. And I think it reaffirms for you. I think We experience ourselves from the inside, right? I tell
Mhm.
people all the time, the greatest thing I do every day is turn oxygen into carbon dioxide
Right.
because I just get up and breathe.
Magic.
It's
Right.
right. And so, but because we're just getting up and breathing through the day, we don't experience our greatness. We
Hmm.
don't experience, we experience our struggle, we experience our inner dialogue, but we don't experience ourselves the way that other people experience ourselves. I mean, I remember meeting you. So you do not know this. I remember actually the first time we actually encountered each other was at a NABO event, like many years ago. I think my friend Charisse had invited me. And I
Okay.
remember like just kind of sort of crossing paths and being like, oh my God, I love your hair. And then, we kind of just went off, went our separate ways. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And then I think, then through Women on the Rise, it was like, oh, hey, right?
Again. Right.
Again. And but being like, oh my gosh, like she's so like together and just, like so chill. And then, then you meet again. But it's like we never know how somebody else is experiencing
Yeah.
us. We
Yeah.
just know we get up every day and we start breathing. And
Hmm.
so the story, like I'm always floored when people know who I am, you know,
Yes.
and because same, I get up, I put content out, I have a podcast, I show up at places.
Okay.
But I don't expect once I'm done with it, my brain goes, girl, check, go on to the next thing.
Okay. Exactly.
And so then someone goes, I know you. Oh my gosh, you're you. And you're like, I mean, I guess I'm me, right? But you
Right.
you don't know. You're just existing.
What's funny is when someone's like, "Oh, I saw that video." I'm like, "Girl, what video?" I
What
don't.
girl, what video?
Not only do I not know what you're talking about, I don't remember what I said. I had someone ask me. This is always what sends me when people are like, "What teleprompter do you use?" I'm like, "Teleprompter." Like, girl, there's a teleprompter. I am. This is like off the dome. I am simply
Yes.
talking.
And that's where I was going to go with that, was that then somehow I found you on Instagram. Now, mind you, I did not, like the times I knew you, I did not know you were on Instagram. And here I am. Boop, 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 boop. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
I know that face.
I know that face. And more than anything, it inspired me to be like, sis, pick up your phone. Like you can
Yeah.
do this. Like
Yeah.
you like because my where I am hung up, I love my podcast. I love stages. I struggle with the social media of it, like the turning on the camera. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, watch her. You can do it. Be like her. But like
Yeah.
you don't know the people that you are inspiring,
Oh, thank you.
that right, the people that are like, I can do that, I can take a step in the right direction, I can change my life, she
Yeah.
changed her life, what can I do? And
Yeah.
so I think that we also have to remember that the value of who we are is who we are.
Yes.
It's not
It's so
what we
simple.
yeah, it's not
Mhm.
what we produce, it's not, all the things that we build. It's that when we are brave enough to show up imperfect, to
Mhm.
show up authentically, to just show up, somebody else is looking at us and saying, well, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah. And that is honestly why I do it, Kamaria, because I've had people who, you know how people are, even going to counseling, even going to therapy, people can have something to say about that, right? And so, like, because I share openly, like you just did bravely, that you've done therapy, that you've experienced depression, I share things that are personal to me because I can.
Hmm.
Share things because it does not bother me to be human. I'm so rooted and okay with my imperfection that I really don't care that someone else knows I'm imperfect because, girl, what did you think I was?
Right. And who
You know,
isn't?
like, what did you think I was over here? I'm imperfect as hell. And so it doesn't bother me to share parts of my life because I know, one, it doesn't bother me because I'm rooted, but two, someone else who does not feel seen, who does not think that anyone else is feeling exactly what they're feeling needs to see that message.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember like having a conversation with someone, because I think what I love about the humanness, right? Like I love the part about being human. I love being human, right? I love that aspect of my life. And people will see you and think you're sort of like up here, right? And I remember having a conversation with somebody because when we sort of go back to our corporate lives, there's
Yeah.
that hierarchy that exists.
Yes.
People say it or not, right? You show up in a room as, Nikki Morris, comma, title, right? I show up as Kamaria Scott, title.
Mm-hmm.
And the more your title elevates, people stop seeing you as a human
Yeah.
and they start seeing you as kind of like this entity.
Right.
And so part of what I worked really hard to do in my corporate life was to stay approachable,
Mm-hmm.
to show up as, Kamaria Scott human before Kamaria Scott title, because
Yeah.
people will see you. And then again, going through sort of like the middle, part of the middle is we have enough polish and sophistication because we've been through some things and we
Right.
learned how to navigate the
Yeah.
environment.
And
And
frankly, how to mask,
right,
right?
we learn how to mask. So
Yeah.
like so when we show up, and it's like razzle dazzle, smile.
Mhm.
People don't know that like there's all these things underneath and they're struggling with imposter syndrome. They're struggling with their own depression. They're struggling with and so when I can say from the space that I have built for myself, listen, I still struggle with depression. Honey, listen, once a month I am in a fetal position counting down the hours.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
And but I want you to know that because maybe you didn't have a mom
Mm-hmm.
who said to you, you should be tracking your cycle because once a month you're going to be batshit crazy. But you need
Right.
to know that, right?
That's right. That's right.
Sure. I have had the same therapist for 20 years. Shout out to Kathy
Mm-hmm.
because I got to keep all this in because there's so much stress that we have to keep in check. You should not be thugging through life. Like you need a support system.
Yes.
This interesting phase that we're at right now of like I would feel like I'm in my auntie phase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being in my auntie phase allows me to take those experiences that have given me clarity and helped me operate with intentionality and pass those down to somebody else who's
Yes.
looking at me from the outside and saying, look what she has accomplished, look who she is.
That's
But
right.
also being able to say, thank you for that, for what you think I am, but let me also pour into you so
Yeah.
that you can get here less scathed than I was when I
Huh.
arrived at the point.
I just told my daughter that yesterday, and I've said it before on the podcast. If the women in my circle who are younger than me, or even my age, or hell, in my circle, period, if they are going through everything that I've gone through in my life, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. Like I have not been transparent enough. They don't trust me enough. Something is going on because I would never look at women younger than me, especially, and say, well, I had to thug it out. I had to get it out the mud. You go figure it out. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like the whole goal and the reason why I share so much is because you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Girl, you don't have to touch that stove.
You
You don't have
don't.
to do any of this stuff if you don't want to. Now, if you are a hard-headed niece, sister, daughter, that's on you.
That's on you.
But you will not be touching the stove because I didn't tell you it was hot. I'm gonna tell you.
I'm going to tell you it was hot, and I'm going to tell you, like, listen, go off and make a different mistake. We're all going to make mistakes. I applaud the mistake making, but you don't need to make this one. This
Right.
one, I've already made this one for us. Go make a different mistake. And I think that is, I think, the gift of being the queen, though, right? Like when you get to that phase where you have had so much experience and you're able to, like, I remember in my corporate life, I was so in my younger years, enthusiastic, right? I had all the ideas. I want to do a thing. I can do this. And I remember a woman saying to me, I want you to look around and I want you to ask yourself, like, what evidence have you seen that the company is prepared for what you want to do? And it was
Mhm.
such an interesting conversation because, she basically was like, sis, I see you all bright eyed, bushy tailed, ready to take on the world. Love is for you. But I want you to take your environment into consideration. And
Yeah.
I don't want you out here spinning your wheels, getting, discouraged. I want you to be wise with how you apply your energy. I
Yeah.
remember meeting another woman who taught me early on. She said, listen, you should always be planning your exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that became a part of how I work. Like, thank you. I signed my offer letter already, like, so let me get
Okay.
my with mixed emotions. Let's get someone together too. Like, but like so many lessons and things that women gave to me over the course of my career who were at that phase in their career
Yeah.
and we're giving and we're pouring back into me. So there's mistakes I didn't make. And I remember literally just having a conversation with one of my girlfriends who her daughter is like us, type A, ready to
Mm-hmm.
go, get ready to set the world on fire. And we were talking about the need to have the conversation with her, though, about how the corporate space is going to receive a headstrong type A Black woman and how she's going to have to navigate that.
Yes.
And so, like, we still have to be at the place where we're helping because you start feeling crazy when you're like, what's going on? Like, the people told me they wanted the good work done.
I'm
I'm
doing
doing
all the
good work.
things.
I'm doing all the things.
It's that pet to threat funnel, right? That
Whew.
transition that you got hired to do all the things. You come in guns blazing to do all the things, and it's like, why are you doing all these things, girl? Yeah.
So that's what we get to pour into the next generation because I think we found it out the hard way.
Yes.
But if we can pull someone aside and say, this is how you navigate this, you're going to encounter it. That's not to say you're not going to be successful, but let me give you my tools for success, right? Don't let anybody make you the lightning rod. If they don't want to do their job,
That's
put
right.
it back on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
Do not fill in gaps. If the company doesn't want it, then it's not your responsibility to build it
Right.
because now you're holding all that stress. That's how you become burnt out.
That's
Like there's
right.
just tips that we can tell each other that will help us, that will save us some of the stress. But listen, go find an advocate. Go
Mm-hmm.
find somebody who's going to say your name in the room when you're not there.
That's right. That's right.
Those are things I think that we can give back when we get to being the queen. It's the passing along the knowledge. It's helping somebody else come up, giving them tips that they don't have to start over and
Mm-hmm.
make the same mistakes. We are birthing the next generation of success through
Mm-hmm.
what we're able to give back to them.
Yeah. This conversation, girl, we could talk all day. We would have to have like a girlfriend getaway, like a little
Yes.
weekend,
Oh,
like a
wow.
beach.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going on the next birthday vacay. That's what we're gonna.
Come on,
And
girl.
we're gonna do a mommy version. I'm gonna go out like my birthday's in Christmas Eve, so I'm like I can't really do it on my birthday, but like we're gonna have to do some semblance.
Oh, you're a Capricorn.
I
As
am.
am I. That explains so much. We are the same human being in different fonts. I
When
love this
is
stuff.
your birthday?
January 7th.
Okay, it
I'm a
explains
Jan.
everything. That's who we are, girl. This is Capricorn core. This whole conversation is Capricorn core, by the way.
Oh,
Only thing we didn't
absolutely.
talk about directly was money, because if that came up, then it would really be a Capricorn podcast.
Listen, I feel like it's always lingering in the background. It's always lingering in the
It's
background.
always the unspoken, right? It's always there. Okay, let's do some hot seat questions, and then
Okay.
we're gonna talk about how to get in touch with you, how to work with you, and we're gonna listen, talk again because I'm gonna have to have you back. There's more I can tell you, more we should cover. All right. When you think about a woman over 35, what do you think? And this is a big one for me. I am committed to getting more women to stop saying I'm sorry.
Mm.
I want women to stop saying I'm sorry for things that they didn't even damn do half the time. But in a work environment, it's because I had a boss once many years ago. When I tell you she said I'm sorry probably 100 times a day,
Hmm.
it was so disempowering. And I saw it. I saw people lose respect for her over time because she was always apologizing for things that had nothing to do with her half the time. So I'm asking you, from your experience in work and life, what do you wish? What's one thing that you wish women over 35 would stop apologizing for right now?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. What should you stop apologizing for?
Mhm.
Being who you are. I think that it took a long time to be Kamaria on purpose
Mhm.
and to be like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And I think we have apologized for being ambitious. We have apologized for wanting it all, for wanting better partners. And that's something we should stop apologizing for. Like we want what we want and we are who we are, and we should be that on purpose and loudly, and we should stop apologizing for it.
Immediately. Immediately, yes. Okay. What is one thing, and I'll tell you this, I once did some consulting for a big company. It's a big company that probably most of us have frequented at some point if you wanted some hot fries, okay? So hot fries in a spicy Sprite. So you probably frequented this place before. I did some consulting work for them because they were noticing that women at the director level begin to fall off. They're
Mhm.
disappearing, right? Where are all the women going? I already knew the answer to that question, but I had to do the research and make all the data points and draw all the connections. We know that organizations typically do not support women at
Mhm.
that stage of life. We're going through
Mm.
both the hormonal shifts of everything, the transitions with our children and marriages at some point sometimes, and also going through a situation where your career might be hitting the point where you should really be the most successful, the most propped up, right? What do you wish more organizations understood about how to support women in that middle, that literal and figurative middle of their lives?
I wish they understood was that there is an absolute difference in how and it's interesting enough, I don't think they don't understand it. So there's this. I think there's a difference in typically the relationship and responsibility that women have both inside of the organization and outside the organization. And so I wish that they would think about what does it take for women to be successful? What can we take off their plates?
Mhm.
And help them with so that they can be the best version of themselves for the organization. When we think about benefits, let me tell you the benefits I would have loved when I was single momming through life.
Yeah.
Like yes, we have a wellness benefit for insurance and there's a daycare one, but I would love a general benefit, like a general allotment that you can use for household things.
Mhm.
If I could have like ordered HelloFresh when my son was younger, woo, game changer.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I like when I got to a different phase of my life and I wanted, and this is specifically for when women hit that sort of like director level and you have a little bit more income.
Yeah.
What changed my life was outsourcing things at
That's
home. Right
that's
now, if you want to cook dinner, I love this for you. Go ahead and do it. But what I loved was I could be like on a Sunday, I could be like, which meals are we ordering this week? And I was like, I can do it. Listen, when I got house cleaners, game changer, right?
Mhm.
So I
Yes.
think it is like people need support with navigating life and they need flexibility. Because again, I'm also going to be soccer mom. I'm also going to be that. So give me flexibility to be
Yeah.
able to navigate my life and give me a general purpose benefit that I can use as I see fit for the rest of my life. The rest of these things I could care less about.
Yeah.
Navigating life is the thing.
Yes. And I'll even add one more benefit that I wish more corporations, everything you said, right? And I saw in the research and the studies that I've done, adding in a coach, access to a
Yes.
third party coach, not a coach who works for your organization, y'all.
Yes.
Do not have these women talking to coaches who also report to you or to,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
an external third party coach who they can talk freely to.
Who's a
And
human.
yes, that is a game changer for a woman who is a director or above, because that is when she's going to need that additional layer of support that she's not going to be able to get from her leader, because her leader is going to assume she has everything figured out. And
Hmm.
newsflash, she does not.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, coaching, I would say, is an additional benefit that I wish more organizations would give women at that level.
I think that's fantastic. And I will say one of my companies, I'm not sure how benefit was we were coaching nonprofit leaders.
Yeah.
They were training us internally as coaches to coach nonprofit leaders for some of our clients. So it can be done.
Yeah.
And so I became a coach for another high performing woman. And I
Hmm.
do think we need that because we need to be able to help them find their way forward, share experiences, but
Yeah.
help them navigate different scenarios that they may be having. So
Yes.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. I love that. And then last question, my friend. Let's see, I have so many good ones. Pick a good one for us. Okay, last question. And this is going to dip into your experience, I'm sure, with therapy, because this is where I learned that this was me. What do you think is more dangerous for a woman long term? People pleasing or
Mm.
perfectionism? Perfectionism,
Ooh,
or people pleasing. Which one is the bigger fish you need to fry and get rid of?
perfectionism. I can say that all day long, perfectionism. And I think the reason why is because perfectionism will keep you from making any sort of progress. It will keep you from just getting it done and getting it out there and iterating on it.
Yes.
So, as somebody who was afflicted with both,
Hello.
I think, yeah, like I'm raising both of my hands. I think perfectionism all comes from a deep-seated insecurity of being perceived and judged.
Yeah.
And if you cannot get over that, you will always stay in the realm of only the things you already do well.
Yeah.
And you won't give yourself permission to do something else terribly to get to perfection. Like perfection, you don't arrive at perfectionism. Like that's why I have a sort of a mastery mindset, because I understand that it's not perfectionism, it's mastery that you're aiming for. But if you are so rooted in people's perceptions of
Mm-hmm.
what you are doing and sensitive to them seeing you sweat, you will not come out of your comfort zone. You won't push yourself. People pleasing, we want people to be happy. And I think you can always learn to navigate that in a way. I had a young woman that reported to me, and she was so capable, so smart, so me. And part of what I used to do for her, she might say to her, is I used to send her out, tell her to tell people no.
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, so and so has made this request. Love that for them. I need you to tell them no. And she'd be like, but I'm like, no, ma'am. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
go tell those people no. Now you're
Yeah.
gonna tell them no in a nice way. You're gonna tell them no in your very you way of doing things. But you're gonna have to get comfortable with delivering hard messages. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have to get comfortable with people not liking the outcome, but that doesn't mean they don't like you.
Yeah.
We can learn how to navigate that in a way that is not as detrimental. But I think if you are so afraid of being seen, not being perfect, the amount of stress it's going to give you is going to be just tremendous, and you're never going to be able to move yourself forward.
If, not only if, when an organization wants to work with you, can bring you as a consultant, whoever wants to work with you, how do they do it? How do we find you?
How do you find me? Well, I think you first find me the way that everybody finds everybody on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can find me, Kamaria Scott. I'm the one that focuses on culture, leadership, performance, all the good things when it comes to work. You can reach me at Kamaria at Enetic, ENETIC, LPS.com. That's always another easy way to find me. And yeah, just reach out. I love working with people. I love peopling.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kamaria. This has been a joy. I think this is for sure my longest podcast. It's going to be like 3, 4 podcasts because we talked a long time and I loved every minute of it. Thank you so much. Listen, you are always welcome to come back. Whenever you want to come back, we can talk about your book when it's out. You can come back whenever you like. You are welcome. You are my new co-host, essentially.
Yay! I love that. I love being a Hive member. No, thank you for having me. I think these conversations are so necessary for women who are navigating life. There's absolutely an intersectionality between how we live our lives every day and how we show up in the workplace. And so being the best, healthiest version of ourselves is how we show up at work, how we find our purpose, how we move toward it. So I appreciate just being able to contribute.
Yes, thank you so much. And if y'all found this to be helpful, if you found it to be interesting, if you see or hear yourself in this, and I know you do, because if you're over 35, if you are working, if you are breathing, you're going to hear and see something that is impactful for you if you listen to this episode and all the other episodes. If there's someone or something that you think should be featured on this show, by all means, let me know. Give us a like, a follow, and a share. Give Kamaria a like, a follow, and a share as well. And until next time.